Well, Charles Hoskinson, the CEO of Cardano, of course, always shaking some things up, and he just did it again. He just said some very interesting things, and I want to break down a little bit in this video, bring you up to speed on what he said about Cardano. And obviously, this is Cardano news that affects all of us as Cardano holders. I know I speak to a lot of you here on this channel. So many people are passionate about where Cardano's future lies, as am I. I'm very heavily invested financially into Cardano. I've been adding to this position a lot here in 2022. I'm looking forward to the future of ADA. And he had some interesting things to say, man. I'll tell you what, Charles Hoskinson, like him or hate him, man, he's interesting. He's interesting. And when he speaks, people listen, right? There's no doubt about that. So we're going to jump into it here and talk a little bit about what he said and break it down. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to this channel if you want daily crypto content. I'm here for you every single day. So here's what he said. He says, Cardano doesn't need cryptocurrency to be successful in order to succeed. Those are some pretty bold words from IOG CEO and Cardano founder, Charles Hoskinson. Of course, Hoskinson came over from the Ethereum squad, started Cardano because he and Vitalik had a little bit of a different philosophy on where they think the industry needs to go. So earlier today, Hoskinson and you know he had some things to say. Talked about Ethereum's foundation's attitude toward him and Cardano. So a little bit of a background here. The original Ethereum white paper was written by Russian Canadian programmer Vitaly Buterin, better known as Vitalik Buterin, published on his blog in December of 2013. It got announced in January of 2014. So around 6 months later, Ethereum's 8 co-founders, Hoskinson being one of those right there, met in a rented house in Switzerland, and it's been nicknamed the Crypto Valley. Although there was some disagreement between the co-founders, eventually the decision over the governance process, eventually the group decided to let Buterin make the decision. Ethereum wanted Ethereum Foundation to be a nonprofit entity, and so he asked two people that disagreed, Hoskinson and another co-founder, to leave. So the following year, Hoskinson and Jeremy Wood founded IOHK, now called IOG, one of the world's preeminent blockchain infrastructure research and engineering companies. Of course, IOG does the research and development for Cardano. So a little bit of a background there. So as reported by the Daily Hodl, Buterin had this to say. There's definitely interesting ideas in there. I do think Cardano takes a bit of a different approach than Ethereum in that they really emphasize having these big academic proofs for everything, whereas Ethereum tends to be more okay with heuristic arguments, in part because Ethereum is just trying to do more faster. But there are definitely very interesting things to come out of the IOHK research. So this is why I like investing in both Ethereum and Cardano. Different philosophies, but they both can win, I think, and both be big successes in the future of crypto development. So despite lauding IOHK's ideas, Buterin took issue with Cardano's approach to protocol software development as well. He says, I'm actually the sort of person who thinks deep rigor is overrated. The reason why I think deep rigor is overrated is because I think, like, in terms of like why protocols fail, I think the number of failures that are outside the model is bigger and more important than the failures that are inside the model. And the other thing is that a lot of academic approach ends up basically optimizing for other people inside the academic system. So what he's referring to here is Cardano's system of, how they get things done is very academically driven, meaning peer-reviewed process. And, from somebody who has, acquired a PhD, I totally understand where Vitalik is coming from here, because sometimes people don't get things done very fast. In the academic environment. In fact, hardly ever, right? Because of the rounds and rounds of reviews, right? Peer-reviewed research. You'll hear this term in academia. And basically, it goes through rounds and rounds of testing before it can get published. And Cardano takes this philosophy, but I also see the merit in that too, because you get it right, right? So it's almost like Ethereum is about, hey, let's just get it done as fast as we can. Let's get it out there and fix it as we go. Whereas Cardano, on the other hand, is like, hey, let's not roll out anything until it's perfect, right? So they're very analytical in their approach versus, Vitalik is like, hey, let's get it out there, right? And grow, and fix as we go, right? So that's a good way to kind of understand it. So Hoskinson, in February was asked during a surprise AMA that was streamed live on his YouTube channel if there were any ways in which Ethereum is better than Cardano. And this was interesting. He said, well, Ethereum in its current which in its current form is a subset of Cardano. When sidechains come, everything Ethereum is, Cardano is. They're combined together. It's like the real numbers to the integers. There's a lot more of them, and they do a lot more things, but the integers are contained within the real numbers. So he says there's an interesting thing about community building. If you're intellectually honest, Ethereum has a humongous community. I personally sometimes have some issues with that community above and beyond their distaste for me. I think there's a lot of elitism and arrogance in it, and samurai-ness in it. What a word. And it's the man bun syndrome. Very interesting. So yes, that's a personal taste and preference, but it's undeniable that pervasiveness of Ethereum. So he, basically says they're just taking a different approach in building their community. I think they're all about close-knit relationships rather than like this one big community that's not necessarily tied in together. So he goes on to talk a little bit more about Ethereum's movement and where they are and where Cardano is. In his second part of his response, he says he disliked about the Ethereum movement. What he didn't like is namely its arrogance and lack of interest in learning about successes and failures of other major crypto projects such as Cardano, Solana, IOTA, etc. So interesting. So he says here, if you're smart, you learn from other people's mistakes. You learn from where other people have not done things well or done things well. Competitive analysis intelligence really helps you out. You see this in great engineering. Mimicry is a great example of that. For any structure, any design, anything you look at, you always ask, did nature already do it? Because if it did, I have a starting point. Who am I to argue with millions of years of evolution? So, interesting. Now Hoskinson has some latest comments on the Ethereum crowd. I always wondered why the Ethereum crowd is so obsessed with my 6 months there in 2014. And then after the merge, it all made sense. They just seem to really like technology and events from 2014. Levity aside, people really need to grow up and move on. It's fair game. That was one of 9. He went on and on. But then he moved on to say that even if cryptocurrency never gains mass adoption, this is where we started. The Cardano community can grow to billions of users without poaching a single one from Bitcoin or Ethereum. Of users without poaching a single one from Bitcoin or Ethereum, we just need to be good at solving real life problems. We focused a lot on this before when we talked about Cardano, and that's been the focus of our community. I'm proud of them, and it's remarkable to see how much progress we've all made. I'm sorry, blah, 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 that our industry, and he goes on to say, basically, he's not worried about what Bitcoin and Ethereum do. He's only worried about what Cardano does. So that's the moral of the story. Different philosophies, right, guys? I mean, that's really the point of this video. And from an investing standpoint, guys, we can have both Ethereum and Cardano in our portfolios. There's no reason why we can't other than our ego. Like if we let our ego get in front of investing, then we'll probably hold one or the other. We become so tribal about it and what have you. I hold both. I know that there are different philosophies out there that can work. There's a market out there that is very, very young and still growing. You're talking about 2 top 10 cryptos by market cap. There's room for both of them to succeed in the smart contract space, in my opinion. That's why I hold both Cardano and Ethereum, and why I'll continue to do so moving forward. So that's what we're getting at with Charles' big comments. Cardano doesn't need crypto to be successful in order to succeed. They're just focused on ADA and doing it their way. Let me know what you think about this down below. Don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe for more content like this. I'll be back with more. See ya.